One of the most common questions asked in online chicken forums is this little chicken developing into a hen or a rooster? In this video, I'd like to give you some ideas about how you can answer that question. Come on then. If you want to know even before the egg is hatched, well, that's actually possible. Check out my latest video about that. That will work, but only if you have a huge lab at your disposal. You can get a DNA test on your chick. There are DNA testing labs that can do that for you. You just fill out a form, take a sample of blood, feathers or eggshell that the chick just hatched from, send it to the lab with the fee, and in a few days you should have an answer. That will work, but only if you're prepared to spend quite a few dollars per chick for the test. Then there's the way the experts do it. First, you need to know that the rooster's sex organs are not on the outside like most mammals. They are located inside the cloaca, also known as the vent. So you need to be able to look inside the vent to see it. Second, you can only do this when your chick is a day or two old, because once the chick starts to eat, its lower abdomen becomes distended with food and changes the way things look. Third, you have to do this on a live chick, so you have to pick it up, turn it upside down, open the vent wide, then squeeze the chick a little to make the vent turn a bit inside out, but not so hard that you damage the fragile baby chick. Then remember that this is the chick's vent. That's where the poop comes out. So often what you're going to see is poop. So you've got to get that out of the way. You have to be quick before another glob of poop comes along, or you'll have to clear that away too. And then the really tricky bit. You have to recognise what you see. And amongst all the different shapes and sizes, it's not easy to identify what you're looking at. I'll put a link in the description below for anyone who wants to know a bit more. So, vent sexing works, but only if you're an expert. So where does that leave the average person who keeps a few chickens? Well, we have some options. Feather sexing is a well-known method, although many people don't quite understand it. There are a couple of different approaches, and either can be reliable, but it depends on the breed, the strain, or the cross. Different breeds of chickens develop their feathers at different rates. In general, the heavy breeds, like Wyandottes, Rhode Island Reds and Barnevelders, are slow feathering, while the light breeds, like the Leghorns and Anconas, are fast feathering. In a fast feathering light breed, the wing tips of the wing feathers might even be apparent as soon as the newly hatched chick dries off after hatching. These wee Leghorns are just 1 day old, and already you can see feathers appearing at the end of their wings. And here they are at 2 days old. Look at those wings. And by the time a fast feathered chick is 3 weeks old, it will be mostly covered in real feathers. On the other hand, a slow feathering chick might not get a complete covering of body feathers until it's about 6 weeks old. As well as the overall rate of feather development, there's a clue when the chick is between 1 and 3 days old. Chickens have 2 rows of feathers on their wings. The lower layer are the primaries, which develop into the long primary feathers, the feathers that we usually think of as the wing feathers. Above them are a layer of coverts, which in the adult chicken are not as long as the primaries or secondaries. When the baby chick is just developing its feathers, between 1 and 3 days old, a fast feathering chick will have primaries and coverts that are different lengths, while a slow feathering chick's primaries and coverts will be equal in length. So with a bit of experience you can tell the difference between a fast feathering chick and a slow feathering chick. And if you cross a slow feathering hen with a fast feathering rooster, then all the female chicks will be fast feathering and all the male chicks will be slow feathering. So you'll be able to tell the difference. So that will work, but only if you plan the cross of the fast and slow feathering breed correctly, and only until the chicks are about 3 days old, and it only works for that one generation. There's also a subtle difference in the rate of feather development between the boys and the girls of purebred slow feathering chicks. Boys develop their feathers even more slowly than the girls. That's because the gene for slow feathering is dominant and is carried on the Z chromosome. I have a series of videos about chicken genetics. If you're interested, maybe I could do one about the slow feathering gene. But it means that around 5 weeks of age, slow feathering chicks will have wing feathers, but the boy's back and shoulders will still only have chick down, while the girl is filling in with feathers. These chicks are Barnevelders, which are a heavy breed and slow feathering. At 5 weeks old, the girl is pretty well feathered all over, but the boy still has quite sparse feathering on his back and no feathers at all on his shoulders, just down. So with a bit of experience, that will work. You'll be able to tell the boys from the girls by their feathering rate and pattern, but only if they're heavy breed chicks. How about something a little easier to recognise? What about colour coding the chicks? Well, maybe not quite pink for girls and blue for boys, but quite a few breeds come in a colour called duckwing. As soon as the chick develops breast feathers, you will know. If the feathers are brown, it's a girl. If the breast feathers are black, it's a boy. But if you want to tell even earlier, as soon as the chicks hatch, you can cross a Rhode Island red rooster with a light Sussex hen, and all the girl chicks will be brown and all the boy chicks will be yellow. This is called a sex-link cross, and I explain how that works in this video. And yes, that will work, but again, only if you plan the cross of the rooster and the hen correctly. And again, it only works for that one generation. What if we want colour-coded chicks that are not a cross but a purebred? Are there purebreds of chicken that have colour-coded chicks generation after generation? Yes, there are. They are called auto-sexing breeds. The most well-known is probably the cream leg bar. With cream leg bar chicks, the girls are patterned over their heads and bodies in a brown and cream pattern, often called chipmunk, and they have a dark eyeliner line beside their eyes. On the boys, the pattern is fuzzier and paler. Although the leg bars are the most well known, this same pattern difference can be seen in chicks of any heritage breed whose adult plumage is the so-called wild type or gold duckwing pattern, like brown leghorns. This is a brown leghorn chick. You can see the chipmunk pattern and eyeliner very clearly. The breeds that have barred plumage also show differences in chick down colouring. The white spot on the top of a girl's head is smaller and well defined, while on the boy's head the spot is bigger, blurrier kind of white smear that often runs down into his neck. I have had some success in picking Rhode Island red chicks. The girl chicks of some lines at least seem to have some dark splotches, while the boys are an even, paler buff colour. These chicks are now a few days old, but the dark splotches in the chick down are still visible. So looking at chick down colour and pattern will work, but only for some breeds and only if that line has been maintained to clearly show the difference in chick down. Some people say they can tell the difference between the thicker, robust legs of males compared to the more slender legs of the girls, but I've never had much luck with that. The palest chick here looks like it has quite slender legs, but because it's the only pale chick in the hatch, I know which one it is. And 3 months later, he looked like this. Even these two Anconas at 3.5 weeks old, I couldn't tell just by looking at leg development, although by now I can easily tell that the chick on the left is male and the one on the right is female. And when they put their heads up, you can tell too by the size and colour of their combs. With the light Mediterranean breeds, like the Leghorns and Anconas that have a big single comb, I think comb development is the easiest way to tell the girls from the boys. This group is all girls except this one boy, and even at 3.5 weeks old, you can see that his comb is bigger and pinker. 2 weeks later, at 5.5 weeks old, it's easy to spot the boy. And don't forget to look at their wattles. Sometimes the wattles are even more obvious than the combs. And by the time they're 8 weeks old, it's really obvious. His comb is much bigger and pinker than the girls. It's a little harder with a breed like a Wyandotte that has a rose comb instead of the big single comb. But these two Wyandotte chicks are only 4 weeks old, and you can tell that the boy's comb is definitely a redder pink, even though it's not very large. Some breeds have even less comb than the Wyandotte. Look at these Araucana chicks at 3.5 weeks old. Unlike the Ancona chicks at that age, there's not a hope in telling the boy's comb from a girl's. In fact, it's not until they're about 2 months old, like here, that we really start to see the difference. The boy's comb is slightly redder than the girl's. So you can see that in order to tell whether a chick is a girl or a boy, you need to know what to look for. And you also need to know how old that chick is and what breed it is, so you know what you're looking at. And of course, it's easiest if you have a group of chicks all the same breed and age, which includes boys and girls. If there is more than one boy in the group, I often find that one is more advanced than the other. The chick on the right here is a boy, but he was always less advanced than his brother. His comb was paler and his wattles paler. And it was the more advanced boy who learned to crow first. Eventually, of course, it becomes obvious. If you just keep watching them as they grow, now you know what to look for, you'll get better at guessing, and eventually they will make it quite obvious. So there's some things that you can look out for when you're wondering whether that chick is growing into a hen or a rooster. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.